Okay. You want to tee this up? You want me
No,
to
I
tee
said
it?
you're starting this. Aren't you starting
Oh,
this?
oh, did I just I was thinking I was just starting the recording.
Start us off.
What? All right. With 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Groove Jams. This is a fantastic groove jam that Kurt and I are going to have just with each other. And
Oh my gosh.
it's going to
Yeah.
be fun. It's going to be fun. And we want to talk about one simple question. Who in the history of the world would you want to spend some time with? Let's say an hour or maybe 2 hours. Who would you want to
Okay.
spend 2 hours with, Kurt, in the history of humankind? You get to
All right.
pick. No language barriers,
Okay.
no communication barriers. It's going to be super easy communication flow. You'll understand all of the cultural and historical references, and they'll understand you.
Mythological, fictional
Oh,
character? Could I do like
but
King
Spider-Man?
Arthur, or could I do,
Yeah,
Superman? Could I do
yeah,
somebody like that?
yeah. Let's say sure. Let's include mythical characters as well. Absolutely.
Can I spend the entire day with them instead of just 2 hours? Can I
Okay.
just
Well,
get to spend the day with this person?
sunrise to sundown, though.
Okay,
So
so so hopefully it's in the summertime
you get a long day.
in the northern hemisphere, and if it's a person from the southern hemisphere in the wintertime, I get to spend more time with. Maybe I could go up to the North Pole and talk to them in the summertime, and then we could be all day. Yeah,
You're gaming the question, I
I'm
think.
always I always have to think about the twists, man. Always have to think about the twists. All right. So Tim, let's start with you.
Yeah.
Who in the history of the world would you want to meet with, fictional, non-fictional, and spend an entire sunrise to sunset with no communication barriers whatsoever?
Well, first, can I just acknowledge how hard it is to answer that question? Because there's only one, and there's
I
a lot of
know.
people. I think there's a lot of people that I'd like to talk to.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk to relatives.
Yes,
Uh, I'd like to talk to historical figures. There's a whole bunch of people on my list.
that is true. I
But
mean, yeah.
but
But
if I'm gonna
but
pick just one, I think I'm gonna go with Aristotle.
ooh,
I think I'm gonna go with him because he's like the teacher of all teachers. You
the
know?
Greek philosopher Aristotle.
Yeah.
Not Plato? Not
Fair. It's
well,
right. Fair question. Right. Like Socrates teaches Plato. Plato teaches Aristotle. Aristotle's sort of at the end of the rope. Right. You
he
think that
is the yeah.
but I think that maybe he's more interesting because he sort of laid the foundations for a lot of science that we have today. It wasn't just a philosopher that you saw in Socrates and Plato. With Aristotle, you see a scientist, and
Yeah,
you see
that frogs just came out of mud. That's where they were.
not that guy. No, no, not that kind of science. But I mean, he was an amazing thinker. He was absolutely an
Yeah,
amazing thinker, right? And kind of grew up in a small town and then moved to Athens. And like he just had this ability to think through psychological problems and scientific problems in a way that no one had at least demonstrated before that. And very few people have demonstrated after that. So he would kind of develop the idea of eudaimonia. And like behavioral science is one
What
of the
what
most
what is eudaimonia for people who can't
it's
pronounce it like me?
yeah, it's the sort of the science of happiness, right?
Oh wow.
It's the happiness in life that he was talking about striving for and believed that that was a really important thing to strive for in life was eudaimonia. And that I just dig that. I really dig that. I can absolutely harmonize with that idea.
Well,
So,
and I think as you get to spend the day with him, get to have conversations with him. He was a contemporary of Plato, right? I mean, didn't Plato
yeah,
teach him?
that's right. Plato was his
And I don't
teacher.
know
Yeah.
if he met Socrates or not. Was he around at that point? I
I
don't
don't know.
know. But
Yeah.
so with this, you could have him. He was on the shoulders of giants already, and you can have that conversation. I think that would be very interesting.
Yeah.
He also didn't he
Yeah,
teach Alexander the Great?
Yeah, yeah, how about that? He was a tutor for Alexander the Great, like, wow, talk about influence. Holy smokes.
Well,
Yeah,
and Alexander the Great, I mean, took Greece was kind of not backwaters at that point to
yeah, that
kind of the Babylonians, but man, Babylonia just dominated the world, kind of like the Roman Empire dominated a few centuries later.
yeah,
But that was huge. So yeah.
yeah, agreed, agreed. That's a great observation, but theoretical philosophy, political philosophy,
What
physics,
what would you
astronomy.
ask him? What would you want to talk to Aristotle about? What
I'd
would
wanna
some
start with,
questions that you might ask?
what how the hell did you start coming up with these questions? Like, what got you curious? You know? To the point that you started to try to figure things out. Why was he interested in all those things? You
Yeah.
know? I'm really kinda curious about, I don't know, how does he meet Plato? How does he go off and find himself in a place where he gets to meet up with who was the greatest philosopher at the time?
Yeah.
And how does he track him down, and why does he wanna meet him? And then how does he learn so fast? I don't know. Again, if we've got sunrise to sunset, I'm hoping there's a lot of questions that get answered. I want
That
answers.
yeah, that'd be cool. That would be very, very cool. I would join you. I would just be that I don't even have to
Yeah.
ask questions. Just get to listen in. Do you get a video recording of this? Do you
If
bring that
only.
back?
I think it's worth pointing out too that, he's human, he's not perfect, and he got some things wrong. He kind of screwed up on how women, he kind of thought of women as monsters. And
Yeah.
yeah,
And he did
that's
he did think that there was, like, frogs because frogs came out of the mud in the summer, he didn't
yeah.
didn't really do the scientific research, he was
Yeah.
observational, but then he didn't test anything, so it was
That's
very much of
that's right.
heavier things fall faster than light things kind
Yeah.
of observation.
So perfect for psychology. Okay.
Alright.
Kurt, how
Yeah.
about you?
Oh my
So
god.
sunrise to sunset, all day, one person, any historical figure, mythological or real, no language barriers. Who do you choose?
Oh my god. Again, how do you break this down into just one person? There's so many people. You could, as you said, family. I would love to. My father passed away when I was young. I was 22, relatively young. I would love to be able to go back as an adult and be able to have an adult day with my father that I never
Yeah.
really had. I would love to be able to talk with my great grandfather or my grandfather who served in World War One. All of those, but
Yeah.
you could go back to Abraham Lincoln, you could go to George Washington. I mean, those would be fantastic. All of those pieces as well. Or you could go, as you said, any of the Greek philosophers. I might go with Socrates because the
Okay.
dude takes some poison, man, and you got to have some strong beliefs about just
Yeah.
doing that. And
Yeah.
or going back to some of the Stoics that I so enjoy
Marcus
and love.
Aurelius, or yeah.
Yeah, Marcus Aurelius, and just, I mean, emperor and Stoic, extraordinaire. Um, you could go back to, hey, like some of the early cavemen, like what would that be like, right? I mean, again,
Wow.
no communication issues. I could be
Okay.
having a conversation. Again, our brain structure hasn't changed that much, so
That's right.
they're going to be, we think of them as dumb brutes, but they're intelligent. They're going to have good conversation. Probably, I'm making a big assumption, but I'd love to find that out, right?
Yeah, even though they
Um,
had names like Grog and Mucklack and things like that.
because that's in the historical record that we know, right? Of
Not.
that. But I'm gonna go a little closer to home.
Okay.
I'm gonna stay in psychology, and one of my reasons I got into psychology, which is Kurt Lewin. Kurt Lewin, who was born in Europe immigrated to the United States as Hitler and
Yeah.
Nazism was rising in Europe, and was a fantastic psychologist, researcher, social psychologist, and to, like force field analysis, right? This idea
Yeah.
of taking that, his idea of uh, performance and motivation, all of these, right? This group
It
dynamic work that he did. It's just fantastic when you think about
increasing
all of it.
friction, reducing friction.
I
Like,
mean, yeah, the freeze, unfreeze behavior change model,
yeah.
um, behavior equals uh, personality and environment. So it's a function, that's
Yeah.
the Lewin equation as it's called. Like, and again, I would just love to. And he was at the University of Iowa, my alumni for a couple of
For what? For
years.
a couple of years?
A couple of years. I
Of
mean,
okay.
yeah, I
All
was
right.
there, but yeah.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, that's who I would, love to go back and talk with. Again, at that time, behaviorism was really big, and
Yeah.
he didn't go down there. He wasn't,
Right.
it wasn't there was personality. I mean, his model of behavior had personality involved, not
Right.
just the environment. That was groundbreaking at that time, given Watson and Skinner and all of those behaviorists who are saying it's all just learned, and personality, mind, that doesn't play into
Yeah.
it. And he was very different in that
Yeah,
approach.
Clark Hull being another great behavioralist. And for those of you who don't know, behavioralism was really based on animal behaviors.
Yeah.
The origination was behaviors of animals, which was kind of a weird thing that we get the term behavioral economics, because it's really not about behavior. It's much more about like what goes on in our heads than
But
it
it's
is
about the behaviors that are elicited from that, right? And very,
from what goes
so
on in our
again,
heads. Yeah.
Pavlov was one of the first of, like,
Yeah.
looking at saying, hey, we can train a dog to salivate, just by the sound of a bell.
Right.
And
Right.
you can train people to do whatever, Skinner in a Skinnerian box and all sorts of different things. But Lewin looked at the world with a different perspective. And I think part of it, he was Jewish. He lived in Europe. I'm not sure if it was in Germany or one of the surrounding countries. I don't know, but I would love to just learn more about his history, what influenced him
Yes.
in his thinking,
So what
where
questions
that
would you
all took.
ask? Like
So,
where would you start that conversation?
oh my God,
What would be the first question you ask Kurt Lewin?
I think, like, so Kurt, can you help me understand your equation around behavior? Help me understand, when we talk about personality, what does that mean? And what does the environment mean? And how did you come up with that idea? And what does it imply? So, what can we do with that? Because again, a lot of his work also was very much grounded in reality. He did group dynamic work, and he did,
Yeah.
what was the circles that he started? He had a whole bunch of stuff. So I would start with that. I would then talk to him about behavior change and his ideas around behavior change and how do we implement that into our daily lives. I'd love to hear his history, his background, like help me understand, like, what was it like growing up when
Yeah.
you were growing up, and how did that impact your perception of behavior, performance, force field analysis, the friction,
Yeah.
non-friction, removing friction actually moves behavior forward, all of those pieces. So,
Well, I mean, he was so clear in his model about the the role that context plays in our
yeah,
decision making. His context would be incredibly fascinating. Like,
exactly. I think you're absolutely 100% right there. So,
yeah,
anyway, that would be. And if you ask me tomorrow, I might pick somebody else. I might pick my grandfather. I might pick my dad. I might pick my mom. My God, it would be great to spend another day with my mom and all
yeah,
of those things. So I don't know. This is one of those we could ask this question again and again. This might be a reoccurring thing for us because we can come back and we get a
Yes.
new person that we get to
Yes.
spend a day with, right? There you go.
Absolutely, a new one. Today, we got to spend a day with one historical figure under these particular rules, but next Groove Jam, it might be different. So
Right,
just want to encourage groovers to come back and check out the next Groove Jam.
And please go out to the Facebook group page. And who would you like to spend a day with from sunrise to sunset? Let us know. Let's have that conversation. Let's continue the jam in real life, not just on this little video thing that we're doing, but let's get it going on our Facebook group page and let's talk about it.